And this time we discussed a few kind of techniques, a few things, few tools that are available for fact checking. The next meeting, which I guess in this series would probably be the last meeting, then we will see how we can carry on further. So the next meeting, I would like to talk about online forums and online discussion forums, basically how to create online communities or enter these online communities, whether on Facebook or other social media platforms, and how to conduct discussions, how to influence people in the middle of discussions, because those are the places where a lot of this hate and fake news is being spread. So next time we will talk about that. Next time I'm probably Saturday, Sunday. I'm a little busy on 20th and 21st. So we will hopefully meet on Monday. The Monday which
22nd.
will be on
22nd.
22nd. Yeah, 22nd, maybe at 6 p.m. if you are available. I will send you the details about that. So, but so far, whatever we have discussed, whatever techniques or whatever tools we have discussed, if you have anything to say, if you want to make any suggestions as to how we can carry on this movement, how each of us can play some role in that, I'd be happy to hear your comments. Or if there is some particular area that you want to enter and you don't know what to do in that, or if you've done something, some kind of an insight, if you can talk about that, I'll be very happy to hear your comments if anybody has done anything. Because I don't
can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I was very grateful to the points that you made about, fact checking for videos. I just wanted to add on to, two kinds of incidents that have happened to me. One was an anonymous video which was posted on a group which we considered largely secular. And this video just had this person speaking in the background, and obviously very clearly a supporter of the present government. So he brought up this very long account of how Modi is the best solution at this time and all this, and all based on a lot of very problematic kind of assumptions, with all false figures from partition, and extremely problematic, a kind of a demagoguery kind of a video. And the face was in total darkness. There's only the camera focusing almost on a silhouette. So there's no way we could find out who's this person talking. There is no introduction as to, and this was posted by somebody in the group, So I was very, very upset. So I wrote immediately to the administrators saying, what is this kind of stuff we're getting on this group? And I mean, who is this unknown speaker who's speaking? And totally very biased view about, very, very problematic, very. Thankfully, the administrator took note of it, and then also brought it to the forum and said, we will take this. I request people not to post such videos and stuff like this. But what do you do with an anonymous video? It's very difficult to then, even if you're doing fact checking, some of you who are more trained in journalism like you are might be able to do it. But for some of us who are little novices in this, how do you even go around fact checking an anonymous video? The second quick incident, which I will be very brief, is another video which was circulated more recently, which blamed George Soros. You're aware of George Soros, right?
Yes.
So this was a video which was basically again a present government, the present government supporter. But basically, generally doing character assassination on people like Harsh Mandar, Tista Setalvad, all of them, generally, bandied around all their names, just mudslinging them, and, extremely problematic. This came in one of our family. And thankfully, a couple of my cousins, and it was posted by my mommy, So a couple of my cousins immediately interjected and said, "This is anti-Semitism," and a lot of people are now out to generally, George Soros is now generally, being made the target by various groups, and so my mommy, who's a bit elderly, but who was, I think, tending to lean towards supporting the present dispensation. She said, "Oh, I didn't know it was fake news and all this." I don't have the video with me, but I'm sure many of you may have seen it. But I don't know, maybe I should just send it to AltCheck or one of those groups to find out how we counter something like this, or maybe they will already have countered it. I don't know. But I just wondered, what should be our response to these kind of videos? I mean, in a family group, somebody may call it out, but is there a public forum you can raise it in? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, to your first question, actually, if there is a video which is already not looking very credible, as you said, that it was very dark and silly, and we don't know whether it was true or not. So that is the first reason for not believing it, or calling it like a fake thing. Because if somebody has the courage, if somebody wants to reach out to the people, if wants to say something, then let them say it clearly. Why hide your face behind?
Correct.
So that is the first thing. So you can always make a comment that we don't know who this person is. If we don't know, then we can't believe in, we can't believe or trust on what he or she is saying. That is the first thing. And so if it's always trust. You always trust somebody whose face you recognize, who even if that person is saying something wrong, at least that you can associate something to a so and so person. But when you don't even know who this person is, it's basically a kind of a slandering exercise, which a lot of people are doing. If you go to some of the social media platforms, like for example, I visit sometimes a group, a Facebook group called Z News, and this is the most horrible, the most rabid kind of a place, where every second there are like 9,000 members on that group, and everybody is kind of sending these very rabid, very, very communal kind of messages and memes and all fake sort of a things. So obviously, many of us won't be able to stand on that group, but people are deliberately doing that. So when there is a deliberate attempt to malign a community, or character assassinate somebody, then very clearly, and then you have to avoid that, or at least not forward that. Now, as far as the family groups and family kind of situation is concerned, it's a very tricky situation. Sometimes we have elderly people like our parents or grandparents or uncles, aunts, who post something, and the younger people, they respect them, they respect them or love them, and they don't want to disagree with them, they don't want to so it becomes very difficult. So I always say that you can disagree with them, but try to do it in a very nice way. You say that I really love you, I respect you, with all due respect, I would like to say that this is problematic or whatever. So, and sometimes you can't do that. So then in that case, what I try to do, instead of busting something, instead of countering something, I ignore that, and I post something else. I post some positive news. For example, if some your family member or somebody is posting that, look, so and so community is like that, and you don't want to counter them, then you show some other, after a little while, maybe after a few minutes, you post something positive. Say that, look, this community also did this. you know, I always post very positive stories of, let's say, Hindus, Muslims coming together to do something positive. There are many stories like that you will find. So I always, you know, I ignore the negative things and I try to post something positive, which will change the course a little bit. You know, it's like I always say that if somebody is spreading hatred, if somebody is, you know, like putting the flames of, you know, like putting fuel in the flames, you have the right, you should not put further fuel in it, put cold water into that fire. I always say that. So if there is somebody who's spreading hateful fire, then you put cold water of love on it. So you find some interesting post from somewhere, some interesting news which talks about how, you know, some Hindu did something nice to a Muslim, or a Muslim did something nice to a Hindu. You know, those kind of stories are, they always change the whole scenario. They change the temperature of the room, let's say. So I always try to do that. You know, don't counter your relatives, don't counter the people who are elderly, but put something totally different. That always kind of works. You know, it kind of puts them in a on a back foot a little bit for sometimes. And if you continue, you know, doing that, continue boasting these kind of positive things, it helps. You know, it kind of makes a balance in that. So I was saying that the Z News group also, I have a couple of friends who are on it, and they always try to put positive stories, so that all those negativity, all that negative, hateful things, they get reduced a bit. So this is what we need to do. We can't always counter hatred. We can't always debate with them, because debating is also not very effective. After a point, they start even rejecting your, you know, they don't even listen to your uh, facts and logic and reasoning. For them, you know, reasoning, as we use this term, post fact or post truth era, where even reasoning and logic doesn't work anymore. People don't believe in that. They don't want to argue with you. They don't even know how to do a debate properly, how to use a proper, you know, how to prove their point. They don't know. Most people don't know. They just come up with an opinion, and they think that my opinion is a hard fact. They don't know the difference between fact and opinion. So this is something that we need to, you know, inculcate among people, that, you know, first of all, find out whether what you are saying, is it an opinion or a fact. It's not a fact, because a fact means that it is backed by a certain evidence. So these kind of things we should try to inculcate amongst people, I guess.
Sure.
Yusuf, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
What is your experience with reporting the like these things? Because in YouTube I find such offensive content, and when you report, it says, okay, the thing is, Facebook, it gets back to you and says that most often, I've always had an experience, they would say it doesn't, it is not infringing on all the community. What they give a standard reply back.
Yeah, and you can block that guy if you want. This is what they say.
But that doesn't serve the purpose. But in YouTube, you don't even get anything back. So how do you make these platforms a little more accountable?
I guess you have to continue reporting, because I also sometimes do that on YouTube. There is a way to report videos. If you find something objectionable, you can report, but obviously it depends on what kind of staff is sitting there looking at some of this. Sometimes there is no staff. I mean, it's just these automatic kind of responses you get. These days there is something called bots, social media bots. Bots are basically like robots, or these are little softwares which are supposed to respond. Most of the times you think that when you ask a question or when you report something, somebody has replied. Actually, it's a bot. It's a small little software which is responding to you. So most of the time there's no real human who's looking at these reports. So that's a problem. I mean, these companies like YouTube and Facebook, they're making so much money out of all this content, but they're not investing enough money into looking at the objectionable materials. So you keep posting, you keep first of all, for every video you can post comments in the comment box, if you can. Then you can report to YouTube itself, and if once it doesn't help, then you report again. Then you can also report on social media, like you can write on Facebook or Twitter and say that, look, and also add those hashtags. Hashtags also work, because sometimes, and you can go to the Twitter or Facebook account of YouTube. I mean, YouTube has Twitter thing also, so you at least try to communicate with by as many ways as possible. I mean, this is what I mean. All these things take time. They're quite time consuming. And you're right that there's so much objectionable material which is being posted on YouTube. So many videos, music videos being produced. Um,
A lot of them earn money out of it also.
yeah,
Because
I guess.
after, yeah.
Yeah, because they become viral and so on, and the advertisements on it. So YouTube is, I think, I mean, this look for more ways of reporting. As much as you can report, it's always better. At least they would pay attention to it somewhere. That's the only way. I don't know
Thanks.
what other way you can do.
Hello. Hi. I had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to get your thoughts. I thought that suggestion on countering hateful videos with positive messages was very, very interesting, because I think like everyone is so ready to devolve into debates and fights, and that's such a positive way to approach
Yeah.
it. So I really appreciate that suggestion. I wanted to get your thoughts and everyone else's on, the thing is that we have some legal provisions right now where people can take some recourse, say whether it's the IT Act, or there's a provision, I think, in the IPC against, spreading misinformation. Do you
Yeah.
think that India needs a targeted, specific law to deal with this? I mean, I'm not saying laws are the be all and end all. Community engagement is very important, but do you think that that is something, India should, even as a message, send out that, we think this is important and we need to work towards it, and whether the current government supports that or not, but as activists and, civil society members, do you think that's something?
Yeah, definitely laws work, and I think there are enough laws. I am not a legal expert, but I believe that there are enough laws to stop this kind of fake news and hate, online hate, and people have been arrested also. For example, in Maharashtra, I've heard that several people during this COVID-19 lockdown period, many people tried to spread false news, and the many arrests were made in Maharashtra and probably in a couple of other states. So laws are there. Probably they need to be advertised more. They need to be, people need to be made aware of some of that. For example, for WhatsApp, WhatsApp company itself came up with these full page ads in newspapers saying that please help us stop the fake news and don't forward things which are not verified and all that. Then when this Northeast Delhi riots were happening, the Delhi government as well as Delhi police came up with their dedicated phone numbers, WhatsApp numbers, email addresses, and there is also the website, the cyber cell website, police cyber cell website is there, where you can report any of these things. So there are enough provisions, and I was talking to some people who are in the IT departments, and they were saying that we have, you can't imagine the kind of technology we have. We have amazing amount of very high quality servers and computers, and all sorts of software and hardware to check this and that and this and that. But I don't know whether it's actually being used. They say that you should report to us and then we will look into it. but you know how government agencies are. Maybe a couple of people can do something, but not everyone. You know, most of the people are just sitting there. So there is technology and there is law, but they're not being utilized as much. But we definitely need a community. Um, and they all say, you know, even WhatsApp and what all these companies say that, you know, we can't do much in terms of technology. We need the community support. The community has to participate in it, and the community has to do something about it. So I guess it needs, but you know, finally it all boils down. For example, in India, this IT has been abused, has been misused so much during the election time, that everything boils down to that, that the political parties will probably not help uh, do anything. For example, in some village in UP or Bihar, I heard that the WhatsApp company sent their volunteers, and they put up some, they were announcing through a public address system how you should not forward this, that. And then those volunteers were attacked by a mob. Imagine, because the local politicians realized that, you know, this is a tool that we are going to use. Why should these people stop, or why should they make the masses aware of the power of this? So, you know, in India, this muscle power, uh, which works especially during the election time, it affects everything. So it affects the internet and all these things also. So it needs to be dealt with really deeply, but definitely the community needs to be involved in all of this, because the laws are there, but I don't know whether the laws will work unless the authorities take strong action. The laws will not work. That's what I feel.
Yes. Right.
So I guess if you have any other question, or we can wind up. But I would really urge you to think of, you know, how you can take this forward in your own ways. If anybody is interested in this kind of training, this kind of workshop further, then you can put them in touch with me. I would be happy to take more courses like this, whether online or offline if possible. You know, in real life, in schools and colleges, we should discuss these things, because it should be the responsibility of everyone to catch this misuse of media. And surely you should enter all these forums and try to influence the people there, whatever way they are affecting. The public opinion has to be influenced, because maybe people like us who are sitting on the internet and talking in English, we have a certain way of thinking, but a large number of people who have access to mobile phones, but they're not very savvy. They just believe in whatever they see. They are the ones who need to be taught. They need to be made aware of the power of this media, because they just listen to whatever comes to them and they believe. I especially whenever, if I visit, if I travel in trains or interstate buses, that's where I see, because that's where people have a lot of spare time. And these days the internet data is so cheap, anybody can put it on anywhere. And most of the people are watching things online, they're watching news online, and most of the time they are watching on these lesser known channels, lesser known YouTube contributors, and they're really such dangerous things are being watched all over, especially in rural areas. And they just believe. And how many people can you really individually tell that what you are watching is wrong? For example, these days there is another genre of music videos, or kind of promotional videos, which are teaching you kind of history, a popular history, a pop history of India. And they are such dangerous things. You know, these are music videos or somebody's speech very popular speech where this guy is talking about how India was and how India is this and how it was maligned and this, that. So, and people are just watching those kind of videos and they're believing in everything that is being told. They would never read any authentic books of history. They would never attend college, or they would never have studied history of the level, the authentic history. So they just look at all those materials. I was, traveling in a bus someday, and I heard somebody was listening to a video where a guy was saying that India is such a huge, India is such a great country. And there was a sentence in that video. It said that India never had slavery in its thousands of years of history. I was shocked. How can you say that India never had slavery? I mean, we have slavery probably being followed even now. I mean, there is caste system and everything. But if you just say this sentence, or there is another very popular pop history sentence which says that India never invaded any other country in the last 10,000 years. Now, pop things like that, people just believe that, and they start thinking that, oh, we have such a great country, we never attacked anybody, we never did anything, whereas outsiders have always attacked. They don't realize that India was never so big. India never had this kind of borders. India was not like this. Maybe 250 years ago, India was something else. There were like little kingdoms and fiefdoms. People were fighting with each other, attacking each other, and there was no concept of India like that before British or before the Mughals. People were fighting among each other, and there were no boundaries, there were no borders, really. So how can you say that India never invaded any other country? And even till now, there have been internal invasions. The people of India itself have been, what's happening in Northeast or Kashmir or whatever. So all these concepts, people don't realize. They're told this one sentence that India never invaded any other country, and they start believing in that. Or if somebody says that India never had slavery, you just believe in that. So these kind of pop history and pop kind of concepts, most people just believe without questioning. So it's a huge amount of work that we need to do if we are serious about it. I guess it should start from school education. That's where, because the adults, you can't really convince easily. They will never change. Their ideas are so rigid that they would never change. It's the children, it's the younger lot. You have to start that education from them.